Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jason and you're watching Jason Jensen Trains. In today's episode, I'm going to show you how I built this lighthouse. As you can see, our harbor scene is slowly growing. Just to give you a quick update, I still have to raise this up about 12 inches. Then it gets a black fascia put on it. Then I can glue the styrofoam in place and we can start to do all of our rock molds and get our streets and sidewalks put in. I'm so excited about getting to that point. But as you know, you have to do things in order. And I have to get most of the buildings and foundations done and put in place so that I can move on to that stage. All right, well, before we get started, please take a moment and subscribe to the channel and be sure to click on that bell up in the corner to be notified when I upload new videos. All right, well, let's take a closer look at the lighthouse and then we'll head over to the workbench and I'll show you how I made it. Okay, let's go into details on how I built this. And we'll start with the house since that's what I started building first. So we'll set this aside. Now the walls, they're wood and they were laser cut for me by my friend Kenny Crump, who owns Casey'sWorkshop.com. The dormers were cut by Doug Foscale, who owns FoscaleModels.com. Just like any craftsman kit, I started by bracing my walls. I then took a gray spray paint, a gray primer, and spray painted all of the parts gray. Then, with a sponge, I used French wine and dabbed it on with the sponge. I then did very little dry brushing of the red on some individual boards. Now, all of the doors and windows and railings are from TitchyTrainGroup.com. The shingles, a lot of people have commented on the shingles, and many companies sell these, and they've been selling these for years. One of the companies is besttrains.com. Another one is carolinacraftsmankits.com. caseysworkshop.com. What else? This is not yet complete. I still have to do, you'll see there's a door on the side. And my plan was to put a little walkway from this door over to the lighthouse. But I'm going to wait until it's in place to do that. I'll probably put the door in, but I'll wait on the walkway. The base that it's on is actually just made out of thick strip wood, which is made of pine. I have a table saw in my garage, and so I cut a lot of the thick wood that I use for either foundations or all of my bracing is cut on my table saw in my garage. Okay, now on to the piece that so many of you have been fascinated with. This started as a flashlight. And the reason I used a flashlight, it was kind of by accident. I was going to build a square tower, and half of the tower was going to be clapboard siding, and then the other half, or maybe a third, was going to be siding, like cedar shake shingles on the side. But I didn't know how tall to make it. So when I had this almost done, I had this setting up on the hill where it goes on the layout. And I just wanted to set something next to it to give me a visual to know how tall to make my tower. And so I had a flashlight that I've had for years in my shop. Being in the basement, I keep one on hand in case the power goes out. So I grabbed the flashlight and set it there. And I actually left it there for a couple days, sort of to get a feel for if it was how I wanted it to look. And the more I looked at it, I thought, man, why don't I just use the flashlight as my tower? So that is exactly what I did. And the base is pink styrofoam. So I cut the hole a little bit smaller than what I needed to. That way, I took the flashlight and actually screwed it into the styrofoam. I put some liquid nails on it first and then screwed it into place so it was tight. I then took a knife. Let me back up. I'm getting ahead of myself. The first thing I had to do was I wanted to put 3 windows in here. So I took my X-Acto knife and scored exactly where I wanted the openings to be. I then took my Dremel tool and started drilling into the plastic. Now this plastic in this section is probably close to 1/8 of an inch thick. So it really took a lot of carving with the Dremel tool to get these window openings cut. Now, I want to warn you, when you're using a Dremel tool, any power tools, use caution. Wear safety goggles and take your time. I always tell people, when using power tools, be confident. If you're afraid of the power tools, or you think you're going to slip and cut yourself or hurt yourself, chances are you're going to. So just be very confident when you're doing it. Have a good grip on the flashlight and have a good grip on the Dremel tool. And then carve away. The corners were still a little bit rounded from cutting, so I then had to go in with my knife and make nice clean corners. You'll see on the top above the window they're raised. Now this is actually just plastic. So the plastic is from Evergreen Scale Models. And these were, you can see right here the size. So I just cut off little rectangles and then glued it on with some super glue. I then spray painted this part, the flashlight part, with a gray primer. I then took Camel and with a sponge, I sponged on that tan color. That's what gives it the texture. So it's just acrylic paint and a sponge to get that texture. And obviously you can go as thick or as thin depending on the texture that you want. Let that dry. Then I went in with light buttermilk. And you can see it's definitely more white. And I focused mainly on the top area, then sort of did less and less as it went down. Now the top section is from Carolina Craftsman Kits. And it was from an old kit that is out of production. Now I'm sure if someone really wanted this top section bad enough, you could probably contact Jeff, and knowing Jeff, he'll probably cut one out for you on his laser. I wanted it to be a little taller, so this section right here is actually a spool of thread. So my daughter sews a lot, and she saves these for me, and I use them quite a bit to make water towers on rooftops. For this, I cut the ends off, and it was even longer, so I had to cut even more off. So I painted this with a bunch of different colors. Let me see if I can find them. So it was a sort of an olive green mixed with a turquoise. Then I did some dry brushing. There's sea breeze, sea glass. Then the final step was to do my brown washes that you see on it. And that is just a combination of just different browns and creating a thin wash. The light that's in there is actually a chrome painted small tank, just a round piece of plastic basically that has a chrome finish, so it reflects light. As most of you know that watch my channel, I don't have any lights on my layout, and I never will. I just have so much detail and so much else that I'm focusing on with my entire layout that I've decided not to get into doing lighting or any type of electrical work like that. I also did leaves. Now the leaves, I have an entire video on it, but I use real leaves. And I have a coffee bean grinder that I use. Here is my coffee bean grinder that I use. It's just for the shop, so you can see it's pretty dirty. But so I just take some real leaves and put them in here. Some of the leaves, what I do is I take some fall colors. And I just paint on, just with the brush, just dab on some of these colors onto the leaves. Make sure you do both sides. Then, after you have a bunch of those done and painted, put them in there. Put your lid on, press it down a few times, and it just grinds them up. And what's nice is you can kind of control the size that you want the leaves by how long you press this down. It'll grind them up super fine if you want to. So I then put some white Elmer's glue where I want them to go and then sprinkle them on. Then you can take Elmer's glue with half water, half glue, and a little eyedropper, and put over the top of it. And it just holds them in place. And you can see I have some even on the porch. I'll give you a close-up so you can see the peeled paint effect. And you can see I lifted some of the clapboard. I just put my X-Acto knife underneath where I wanted it to be lifted and kind of pried it up. It takes some practice to lift your boards, and start small. Maybe start on the back of a structure, start in the corners, maybe somewhere where it doesn't really show too much. And it doesn't take long, and before you know it, you'll be super comfortable with doing it. And you'll probably be doing it on all your structures. Let's take it over to the layout and put it in place, and you can see what it looks like on the layout. I hope you enjoyed today's video. This is so exciting, and I have so many exciting videos coming up. We're going to be filling this in over here with some white styrofoam and then painting the sky on here. Like I'd mentioned, we're going to be raising this up, putting our fascia on the front, and then doing rock molds and painting it and adding vegetation and our cobblestone streets. We'll do a video on texturing the water in the front here. So there's so many videos coming up. So again, take a moment to subscribe to the channel and be sure to click on that bell up in the corner so you don't miss any of the progress. All right, well, thank you so much for watching. Like always, I truly, truly appreciate it. All right, well, until next time, stay motivated and happy modeling, everyone.